Okay, so this is my vlog for the week. And again, I'm not going to be discussing a particular book. I did have something in mind, but instead I've elected to do a more general discussion on what books are the best for study if you want to become a Wiccan. I'm going to use something like this for more generalized pagan, because I know not every pagan is a Wiccan. We should all know that and understand that by now. And I think there are different set of books that would aid you in study if you are just a pagan before you define your path as versus Wicca. But it wouldn't be a bad idea if you wanted to start with books that have a more Wiccan flavor to them, and then progress on to books that deal more in the path you're interested in. And again, it's individualized, so it depends on the person, and it depends also if you're working with a circle or a coven. So if I were designing a study course for someone beginning with Wicca, one, I would throw out the idea of a year and a day of study. A year and a day is a significant time frame in the Wiccan tradition. Almost every book, with the exception of Scott Cunningham, and I can't remember if Buckland does it or not, but they mention studying for a year and a day before one is initiated either self or in a coven. And I don't agree with this for a couple reasons. For some people, they never, even finish it. It's something they think about in passing. They want to read more in Wicca, but as soon as they start picking up the books, they lose interest. So obviously they're not going to try to study for a year and a day. Other people, it's things that come up in life. They might start studying, they've gotten into a reading schedule, and then kids, parents, school, work, life in general comes up and they get put off, and they may not be able to resume for a couple months or weeks, just whatever. And the other reason is, for some people, it just takes them longer. They may read a chapter of a book, and whereas I may say, okay, think about it, meditate on it, move on in like a day or so. They may take longer, or it may only take them a couple hours. While I may think it's deep and thought-provoking, they might think it's utter bullshit. So I think time frames really need to be thrown out the window. But if one is starting a coven, how do you know when then to mark when a student goes from just being a student or just being an initiate of the coven into a full-fledged member? Well, that would be something that would depend on how you've set up the structure of your coven. You may want to do checkpoints. A year and a day is maybe a checkpoint. You may want to do every 6 months. It's a checkpoint. That again, it just depends, and it's going to vary. But if I were designing a course study, I would break it down as such. I would have your first tier of books that should be read. I would have the second tier. Then I would have third, fourth tier, and so on and so forth. And the books would get more advanced as it goes along. But if I saw fit, I would interject going back to some of the Wicca 101 books. If you are a solitaire Wiccan, I always recommend starting out with Cunningham, because that is what I started out with, and I think Cunningham gives you the idea that Wicca is whatever you want to make of it. He doesn't force his opinions on people. Yes, he does say at times that certain things should be done this way. But, that's his own opinion. And again, if he's talking about his own path, well, if you're going to follow the Scott Cunningham path of Wicca, then that's how it should be done. Simple. But Wicca and Living Wicca, which I have in this nifty 3-volume book from him, I think are 2 books you must read. Starting out, if you are solitary, I would say they must be a first book. If you are a member of a coven, which I'm not, so my recommendation would be A Witch's Bible, Complete Witch's Handbook by Janet and Stuart Farrar, which includes, if I can find it here, 8 Sabbaths of a Witch, and sorry, forgive me, The Witch's Way. Book 1 is the Sabbaths and Rituals framework for ritual in a coven. Second part, Principle, Rituals, Beliefs of a Modern Coven. It's not a horribly interesting book, I have to be honest. It's a bit of a bore, but I did find a lot of value in this book, and I know if I had read it when I first started out, it would have been alright. I would have enjoyed it. So, I mean, if I was in a coven, I probably would be in a coven that followed closely with this tradition, I imagine. So, I think it's a good book. Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft was one I had not read for a long time, and I know a lot of people find it also valuable for solitaries. So, I would still include it in a reading list for starting with study. He also has another book called Wicca for Life, which goes over a lot of this stuff, so that also would be another good choice. I just didn't pull it out from my bookshelf to show you today, but that would be another good place to study. And the reason I like this book is it gives you patterns for making a robe. It discusses traditions, numerology. It discusses rites of passage, tools. It has music. There's just a lot in this book, and it's not a huge book. And also how this book is followed is lessons, so that might be helpful for some people. So I would include this book in both, probably as a second book. And even for a solitary, I would include this probably as a third book. For a coven member, this I think would be the third book. That's just my opinion. But after that, I would go with Wicca, The Complete Craft by DJ Conway. She is a bit forceful with her opinions, and she does perpetuate some of the more discussed and disagreed with parts of Wicca, such as the threefold law, white magic, black magic, gray magic, those types of things. I don't really like those terms. I don't use them, but a lot of people still do. So, beyond that, she does a decent job. The pantheons of the gods and goddesses. She also goes over the Sabbaths, does a decent job. The invocations she gives for charging items, consecrating items, full moon ritual, the initiation ritual for a solitary. I actually like them. I mean, I like the words she uses. I would rewrite them just because that has become my habit, is to rewrite them, to make them more personal. But there's a lot of information in this book, and I think that's what makes it a great second part to your very bare bone basic beginnings of Wicca. Third book, and this would again depend on the path, but I think complete book of Incense, Oils, and Brews is a good one. It's one that is cited a lot by many authors. And I think it is one that needs to be read. Some of the recipes are outdated. Keep in mind Mr. Cunningham has since passed away. And a complete book of Incense, Oils, and Brews, goodness, was written in 1989. So I was 7. Yeah, I was 7 when that came out. And a lot of people were a lot younger. They may have just been born. So, but it is valuable, and the fact that people still cite the recipes and use his list of substitutions, which really is what sets that book apart from other ones I've read, is that list of substitutions. But it's valuable and it's worth reading, so that would go on the list in the second part. Now keep in mind, this would be just, for me, the basics of, let's say, the first period of study. So it would be equivalent to the year and a day of study. And definitely there would be other books intermixed in it as well, depending on what path I was writing the list for, or what path I felt like following at the time. It could be more Celtic books, books on Celtic path, may choose books on the Nordic path, may choose Native American, Middle Eastern, Roman, Italian, the list goes on and on. Now, for the third part of that first part of study, the third tier, so to speak, or subcategory, Sabbaths by Ian McCoy, because this book is just another chock full of information, incantations, recipes, correspondence for different things. I mean, it's really hard. Oh, there's music. It's hard to go over everything in this book, but it's a good book to have for both solitary and Celtic, or solitary and coven witches. So I like it. I would include it. And Moon Magic by DJ Conway I would include, because again, lots and lots of information, and most of the information I've come across that she has about each individual moon is correct, but the recipes are awesome. The old lore and sayings are as accurate as old lore gets. The rituals are simple and beautiful, and I like the little sections she includes in each part with the moon about different gods and goddesses. So I quite enjoy this book. This would be a must read. Then after that, we would get into what I would start considering advanced Wicca. This is beyond the 101. I would include books like The Witch's Magical Handbook, a Wiccan Bible by A.J. Drew, and Pure Magic by Judica Ellis, who, she's an awesome pagan author. She is not committed to the Wiccan path as far as I know, and she will just go over pretty much anything. She doesn't discriminate. So I think if you see a book by her, she's definitely a must read. She is also the author of the Elemental Encyclopedia of 5,000 Spells, which is an awesome reference book to have. these two books, the reason I would have them as advanced is because they are bound to split people. They will make you think, they will anger you, they will piss you off. You'll either end up loving or hating them, and you will find many, many, many prominent members either love or hate the Frost. And you will find that Mr. Drew, if you do your research online, hates the Frost and is no longer a Wiccan. Now, some people would say this is a 101 book. Oh no, it's not. It's not a 101 book. This is Mr. Drew's particular path of Wicca. This is what it is. He is very firm about what he believes. He believes what he believes. And at times he seeks to make you think, but ends up going off on tangents about his own way of thinking. And the layout of this book is a freaking nightmare. You will find yourself looking like, wait a minute, what did I just miss something? Going back looking for what you missed. Ugh. Plus, he tries these stupid Latin titles to try to make it like a Bible, and it's annoying. But, like I said, starting with advanced books, those are the books I would go with, because I think either you love them or you hate them, and they polarize people. So, that's like a sample of what I think the first couple years of Wicca study should include. And keep in mind, you're a student throughout your life, so it can be mixed up and it might change. You may not end up reading this book until you've been a Wiccan for 20 years. I didn't end up reading this book until recently, actually a year ago, because I just didn't have any interest in picking it up. But in interest, because I had read something else by the Ferrars, I did pick it up, and I wasn't disappointed. I mean, it's a bit dry, but it's a classic text, and, you know, this book was originally written in 1981, so it was written before I was born. So I respect it, I do. I may not agree with everything in here, but I respect it. And I respect it as the way things were done at a certain period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my video today. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.